Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on our next episode of B2B Social Growth. My name is Justina Brownbridge, and I am the Chief of Growth for Tribal Impact. And I have absolute pleasure to be joined today by Brooke Weller from LinkedIn. Brooke, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. We met actually on LinkedIn, yes, as quite a lot of people do. I wrote an article on the subject of AI visibility that I think every marketing leader is trying to understand better now, as I am as well. And you kindly commented on one of my articles, and that's how we met. That's how we started the conversation. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we had that conversation publicly so that our audience could actually learn more directly from your experience? And you said yes. So thank you so much for doing that once again. And for those of you who are joining, this is a live experience if you are joining us on LinkedIn Live. So feel free, I can already see comments from Tamika, excited. Feel free to put your comments in the comments sections. We can see them. If you've got any questions as well, please add them in. We'll be looking at them. And for those of you who are watching the recording, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Brooke via LinkedIn or myself. We'll be happy to answer them as well. So before we start the conversation and jump into the questions, Brooke, just a little bit of a background why we even are here and why are we even talking about LinkedIn AI visibility strategies. Your reports that you published as well on the LinkedIn website mention one very key statistic that 94% of B2B buyers nowadays use AI as one of the places that they go to discover and research solutions to their challenges. And every single marketing leader right now, then it's thinking, okay, well, how do we make ourselves visible then on AI to make sure that when our buyers are there engaging, our name is also appearing. And this is exactly what you do. So I would love if we could start this conversation by giving us just a bit of an overview, what your role is and what you are currently focusing on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I am an AI, technically an AI search strategist. We haven't decided as an industry what to call AEO, GEO, AI search. We like AI search because it encompasses other channels besides just owned and SEO. But essentially, what I do at LinkedIn is a lot of testing. I go across all of the different channels. I sit on the web marketing team focused on business.linkedin.com and other web properties. And my role is essentially to figure out this new wild west world of AEO and try to understand, where are we losing traffic on the SEO side, on the organic side, and how can we make up for that traffic and or conversions through these LLM searches that are happening more and more every single day, especially on the B2B side. I think to your point, people are definitely going to these LLMs and asking questions and going all the way through the funnel stages in one conversation. So it's very important for brands to be there. And my role at LinkedIn is essentially that. We are looking across all of these web properties to figure out, where does LinkedIn sit in these conversations? Is LinkedIn, and when I say web properties outside of LinkedIn.com, I mean the B2B products. So LinkedIn hiring assistant and, LinkedIn marketing solutions, all of the kind of products that LinkedIn sells or is offering to digital marketers. So on that side, yeah, we do have a conversion that we need to maintain and we have goals to hit. And so all that I essentially get to do is look at measurement. I look at frameworks. When I first started, it was about 6 months ago. And, we were just figuring out what my role would even be. And as we learned and we started to build things for ourselves internally. The content owned guide that we published earlier, actually about a month ago, that was actually started because we had so many questions internally at LinkedIn, and we wanted to figure out, how to communicate and how to give our internal web teams guides on their own content. And, we had a mountain to climb, right? Because our content was optimized for SEO as the best of our abilities with the systems that we have. But now we have to play in this new space, and we have to figure out, why is this product mentioned or not mentioned? What competitors are being mentioned in the same conversations or responses that LinkedIn is being mentioned in? And how do we piece it all together to hit our goals for the year? And so that's basically my role. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a challenge. I have an amazing supportive team. Cassie Dell and Ina Mecklin, I'm going to shout you out right before we even get started.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And once again, thank you for agreeing to do this. I can see also Tamika saying, thank you for agreeing to have the public conversation. And I know that you and the team at LinkedIn as well has been so brilliant at sharing that knowledge. Like you said, you've already published a guide to owned properties and how does that impact AI. I know there was another one as well in terms of LinkedIn presence and how can that impact your AI visibility, and 2 more are common. And I'm just curious, like before we jump in obviously to the LinkedIn part, I would love to understand, what are you seeing as some common threads when you are looking at all of those different properties, the owned, the earned, the social, the paid, and how they are impacting AI visibility? What are the key insights that you've observed so far?
I think that's a really good point and a baseline to start from. Optimizing for AI search is not just SEO. And we produced the owned guide, like I said, for our own business properties to make sure that we had all of our checklist items out the gate. It's kind of like technical SEO. It's your foundation that you build the house on. That's how we consider owned, just making sure our house is in order before we go and discuss earned media with third parties or talk to review sites about how our brand is being presented. And so that's the basis, right? There's also the earned media. What other people are talking about you, how other companies, other websites are speaking about your brand. That actually accounts for so many of the mentions. I think the stat is like 90% of the mentions are from another source outside of your own website, which means that the G2 business profile matters. Your LinkedIn showcase page matters. Your presence on other directories matter. Your the listicles that are being published. Best hiring software. You need to have a plan and have brand continuity across all of these different landscapes. So it's no longer just optimizing your own website. It's now optimizing your brand presence. And we used to call it brand awareness. Now it's brand awareness, on the highest possible level, because it's not just brand awareness. It's brand sentiment that we're looking at. And so really focusing on the social side. We're even seeing paid. We're seeing paid influencing LLMs and in different capacities in different social channels, for example. And so we really are optimize everything now. And so that's a good point, Justina. I lost track of the question that you just asked, but that's the basis of all of AI search. It's a very integrated marketing approach. And that means you have to work with other departments within your organization to coordinate this effort and measure the impact of everybody's jobs, which is, to me, it's so exciting and new and amazing.
I feel exactly the same. And I love what you actually talk about as well when you introduce that guide, that this requires the teams to work together, right? For so long in digital marketing, we work in silos. Paid search was doing their own thing, SEO were doing their own thing. There was a social media team published completely different kind of content than what was published on the website, and there was no connection between all of these different initiatives or campaigns. I just see this more now as, well, we've knew that for a while, but AI in a way is forcing us to create a system of all of that working together to build brand awareness, but also brand trust, brand credibility, with potentially ways of measuring this, which I know we're going to touch as well on a little bit later in this conversation. I'm just curious, on the paid front, what are you seeing in terms of the paid front impact in AI? Is that something you can talk about at the
It's
moment?
very,
Or
very early on. And actually, it's probably going to be our last guide that we publish because there's new things coming out all the time. OpenAI just released ads, and we're seeing that and again, when you talk about a system, that's really important. You're not optimizing for a human any longer, but that system is trying to replicate how a human would search the internet and find information and get answers to their questions. So everything that you do, every marketing communication, marketing is communication. So every communication touch point that you have out there for your brand, it needs to be useful, it needs to be answering questions, and it needs to become a resource for the system, the new AI system. And so thinking in terms of that means you need to get rid of all of your fluff. I mean, don't get rid of it altogether, but I've been telling B2B marketers that nobody understands your product. No one understands your elevator speech or pitch. No one understands all this technical jargon. And you have to really distill down the content and the messaging of your brand, because that's how the LLMs input it, right? That's what they retrieve. They're not going to retrieve some complex, narrative that your CFO made up, or your CTO made up. And so that's like the baseline also. But when it comes to paid, we're seeing all kinds of stuff. I wouldn't say, I don't feel super confident talking about the paid side, because it's like the paid messaging
sure.
sneaks in here and there. We do know that boosting a post on LinkedIn, for example, if we are working towards engagement on our posts and we're working towards a lot of interactivity of that post, so that we can have that post be retrieved, or increase the likelihood of it being retrieved by LLMs, then boosting it theoretically would mean that you're going to get more of that engagement. So that's kind of where, when I mean paid, is kind of interacting with the organic side or the direct side right now. Same thing that we're seeing on Google. I've seen studies, I haven't done them myself, but I have read where companies have done a study that they only made the messaging specific or launched a new service or a product on paid Google ads. And those ads and that specific messaging made it into LLMs, even though it was never anywhere on their website in organic. So I feel like that could be its own webinar, and maybe we need to put a pin in that, because there's a lot to unpack there. And again, not my super focus of expertise right now, but it is something that we're all going to have to, discuss and unpack.
Sure, I appreciate you even sharing those early insights. I think just going back to what you said also about the system, it's so interesting that you're optimizing. You said that you need that system to make yourself visible, known for AI to trust you. And I know that this impacts the humans as well, also how we search, how we learn, how we research the information nowadays. We like to verify certain things that we are seeing. So very often people might be going to AI to find the information, but they want to verify it somewhere else. So again, just being that cohesive messaging and making sure that all the teams are speaking with one language rather than, just again, working in silos, I think is really interesting. And I've also known from our previous conversations that you said that also has an impact on search engine rankings. You've seen that also, that approach also helps you be more visible on search engines.
Yeah, I think that, again, the owned and the SEO side of AI search is still very prevalent. What we're seeing, and I'm not going to get into the technical side of like how these LLMs are retrieving data. There's multiple different sources, and there's technical experts out there that I lean on to learn more from. But we do know from our own testing and our own following of the industry and gathering of the data. And again, at LinkedIn, we have so much data. It's like so much. And I don't mean data like people's data. I mean data like we're running an AEO test or an AI search test, and we're normally you would run a test for a month and get as much data as you can, because there's so many daily users on LinkedIn, and there's so much traffic to these web pages that we can run a test for 2 weeks and have enough data to look at it. And so when I say data, that's what I mean by data. And that to me is very exciting, because I'm at heart a super big analytics nerd through and through since the beginning of my career. But what we're seeing from the organic side, again, one piece of the puzzle is the SEO strategies and tactics. What we are seeing, though, is that LLMs do search through Google's knowledge graphs and through the web and Bing, et cetera, and they do pull from what's already being indexed. I just saw a study, and we can send it maybe after this, I saw someone do a test to see how many Google ranked #1 websites for a specific query are also showing up with a high visibility rate in LLMs. So there is definitely correlation there, and a specific tie-in to how these LLMs are retrieving data. So whether it's trained data that they're pulling from and they trained their data on Google search, I'm not sure, but I do see that happening a lot. So optimizing your LinkedIn showcase pages, we're seeing profile. We're not seeing profile data. We're seeing post data, and we're seeing LinkedIn article data being pulled into the search results features. So I was just about to publish an article on this, because there's a lot of industry chatter, but posts are showing up in Google's discovery feed now. It's showing up in top news feeds. It's showing up in people are also saying, and it's not just LinkedIn. We're seeing X coming through, a lot of social coming through the search results page features. And that change happened in late October. And then again, there was an algo update in December. And so that's where we saw a lot of the social posts coming through. And that includes LinkedIn.
And we've seen that, right? We've seen that as well with the data that was published, that LinkedIn is now the #1 cited source on 6 major AI platforms. Now, I'm just trying to unpack this a little bit. I would love to hear your take. Like, what does it mean that LinkedIn is #1 citation? What are we talking about here? Because even when you're mentioning in here posts and articles, is this posts and articles from company pages or employees pages, or is this the wider LinkedIn ecosystem? I just would love to understand how you understand this news.
I would say all of the above. And I'll caveat something here. The way that we measure AI search right now is it's back in the day when we were just figuring out how to measure SEO. So there's some metrics that the AI visibility tools are giving us: mentions and citations. Citations can mean that your brand was cited without a link, or it can mean that it was cited with a link. So when I say citations, that doesn't necessarily mean there was a link, but in most cases, we do see that when LinkedIn is cited, there is a link to a specific post or a specific article. The other thing to note is that we saw that research come through from Profound, and it was based off of a specific set of prompts. So the way that we are limited in these AI visibility tools is that we can only see our data, and you can only see your data for your brand against a certain set of prompts. And we don't have unlimited prompts. The tools are great at suggesting additional prompts to track, because it's going through and seeing what else people are prompting these LLMs with. But that study it's amazing, and it really is focused on professional queries. So I think LinkedIn kind of cornering the market a little bit on the professionalism side, which differentiates it from a Reddit, for example, because people go on Reddit and talk about e-com products, or the oil change that they just got last week from a service provider. So that's one big differentiation. And I think The reason why this survey and the study was focused on professional queries is because that's LinkedIn's bread and butter. That's what we are focused on as a platform. And especially even on the B2B side, that's, focusing on products that are going to help small, medium, and large businesses. And so that's what the research was showing, is that we were number one cited across professional queries. So just to differentiate that, to make it really clear, what we're seeing coming through from that study and from our own data, yes, personal posts, we are not seeing non-public data though. So if you go into incognito mode on your browser and you search for something and you can't see it, if you're not logged in, for example, that's the type of stuff we're not seeing coming through LLM. So if your profile is not public, then your posts will not be pulled into LLMs from what we gather. We are seeing, though, that people's individual posts are getting pulled into LLM responses for various topics. We're seeing LinkedIn articles, newsletters. We're seeing, sometimes we can see a post URL that includes a video, and we can see that it's a company showcase page that's getting pulled in, and their posts and their articles. So it's not company specific, although it is a great way, I think, to elevate your brand on LinkedIn is to update all of your company pages and your showcase pages and begin to post actively there, because that's one optimization strategy. But yeah, we're seeing that linkedin.com/posts like all day, every day coming through.
So it sounds like it's the variety of posts, right? It's not just company posts or showcase page posts or employees posts. It's a variety of different posts. I think SEMrush provided some more breakdowns in terms of how they looked at when it comes to the type of posts, what was the data. And according to their data, they were saying it's more personal posts than page posts, but page posts also play a role. And this is so interesting because what you're saying that you are seeing page post appearing is that it's a system, right? It's not just focusing on one thing. It's having all of it speaking the same language, being cohesive as well in terms of how we're describing ourselves, and I guess having a strategy around making sure that all of the content complements each other and is working together rather than, again, separate teams managing separate initiatives. Would you agree that's the correct description of how we should be thinking about, in general, our visibility on LinkedIn, our activity on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think that's the case. I mean, if it matters also what people are searching for via prompts. So, if you wanted to try to find and reverse engineer where your posts are showing up and where they're not, or where your competitors are showing up, you can go into these AI visibility tools, and Profound is one of many. And you can run the data on your own brand, and you can see, where it'll show you what sites are coming up for a specific prompt, and you can see that LinkedIn is there, or you can see that your brand plus LinkedIn is there. So you can look at this yourself in your own AI visibility tool, and then you can work backwards to say, okay, well, I am seeing my competitors showing up when someone prompts, what is the best X type of software, let's say IT management software, and then you can re-engineer that and write your post about it. And so I think LinkedIn is the biggest. LinkedIn, Reddit, some YouTube, those are the biggest extensions of owned, right? So it's like, it's still your owned brand, but it's just because it's on a different website doesn't mean you can't own that message, influence that message, and create content, really, really strong, good content. Again, do not spam LinkedIn, do not spam Reddit, do not spam YouTube. Like, that's not what the goal is here. The goal is to write compelling, unique content about your brand, about your service offering. What are your differentiators? Again, this is like marketing 101 and content 101. Apply all of those strategies to your LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn ecosystem. And that's your biggest step up in terms of being visible on LinkedIn and on LLMs, right? What's good for your profile on LinkedIn is likely good for LLMs, if that makes sense.
It does. It does completely. And I think some of the listeners are trying to link that already themselves, saying, does the strategy get empowered by employee advocacy and subject matter experts visibility besides the corporate content? And I think you've already answered that, right? That's there's a variety of different types of posts appearing on LLMs. It's not just posts from the page or the individuals, or it's actually both. We're looking in here at, I guess maybe that question also digs deeper. Like, would you, I don't know if you've seen that in the test, that the more peoples from the company post, the higher the chance of the posts appearing in LLMs or Google search?
So I haven't gone down the road to look into posting specific cadence of a certain topic per se. I know that like topic clustering is smart even for search engines and your own content. So it's not a bad idea. I think that what we're seeing is what the topics are that people are searching for. Again, so if you're trying to show up for like breaking news, some political thing, you may show up because that is breaking news, right? But if you're trying to focus on your own domain and your own in domain, I mean like your own subject matter expertise, and you're creating a narrative on LinkedIn and you're creating that story, I think that topic cluster and mapping is definitely going to help. I haven't studied per se. We haven't ran a test where we've looked to see, if we post X amount of times about a topic in X amount of a month or so forth, or we have X amount of employees posting the same thing, what happens? We haven't gone to do our own testing in that manner, but we are seeing those posts coming through. And actually, what I have seen more so in testing is when you write an article and that article becomes a post, I'm going to get into the weeds here a little bit on the structure of a URL on LinkedIn. And I want everyone to infer a couple of things here read between the lines of what I'm saying. But if LLMs are pulling from search engines and search engines are pulling through URLs from LinkedIn, then the goal would be to optimize the URL, and the URL is optimized based off the content. So if I write an article and I say how to leverage LinkedIn for LLM visibility, that article title is going to become the URL of my article, number one. Then it's going to turn into a post, because when you write an article, it self promotes itself to a post. That post URL is now going to be my name / the title of the article. And so that we're seeing that an article that becomes a post and then is shared and has engagement, and to infer into that to if you want to boost and test your own engagement levels with that, you can do that as well. But the kind of anatomy of a post and anatomy of an article, we're working on a new publication here coming soon that is going to break those down very specifically based off of our internal testing. So the URL matters. And I'll tell you another thing about, I would say run some tests on LinkedIn, posts and see what that URL turns into, because what we're seeing, things like the first line of your post also becomes your URL if you don't have an article with it, or you don't have a video with it, or an image file name. And so some of the posts we're seeing coming through with the highest volume of LLM visibility are like very plainly written. That answer of whatever someone is prompting is the answer, the first line of your post. So if someone's asking how to leverage LinkedIn for LLM visibility, then my post is going to say, how to leverage LinkedIn for LLM visibility, or it's going to answer the question that's being prompted. And I think that's great in a way, because it's going to, again, keep us away from fluffy, spammy content. You're answering questions people are asking. That's That's the bane of LLM's existence. Their only real job is to answer questions people are asking and to find solutions for people's problems. And so if you're writing your content in line with that, then you're advocating for your own brand, you're advocating for your own point of view. We're also seeing that credible and unique authors that are like self-authoring, we're seeing that coming through. And then on the URL side, like I said, test it, play with it, run a bunch of things and see what these URLs come up with. And then search for your own post in Google and search for it also across LLMs with like an LLM visibility tool.
Super tips. Thank you so much. Somebody even mentioned this is a great article setup suggestion to consider and review the results. And just on this article as well, setup, like it's just to also understand for people, it's not just about keywords matching, right? Because the LLMs also work more semantically, trying to understand what it is that you are writing about. So yes, there's a very good chance that you will answer specific prompts, but you could also appear for other prompts that might be using different terms that are semantically very close to the kind of terms that you used within your article.
Yeah, and I think again back to content optimization. So all the content writers in the world are just like rejoicing right now, right? Unless you're trying to replace content writers with AI, which I don't recommend. Content writers are like, hey, it's our like, we're the belle of the ball. Like you want content, we write content. You want authentic content, we make authentic content, right? So it's amazing time for content writers, and I've always loved them, always, of course. But on LinkedIn, if you're writing an article, yeah, I mean, think about it as if you were going to write an article for Forbes. What is the structure of your article? What's the structure of your information? Are you regurgitating what someone else said only, or are you giving your own POV? Justina, your article that got me to comment, I loved because you didn't necessarily take a specific stance. You were saying, hey, everyone, look what's going on in the industry. You're seeing, this is what I'm seeing. This is what the experts are saying. And here's my POV, and here's another POV. So you're pulling from all these different sources and you're bringing insight into the industry, right? So offer credible, insightful point of views is my recommendation. And the way that you structured your article was great. So you want to have those bullet points, you want to have those, structured content pieces. Like I said, similar to writing your own content on your own website, or if you were going to get published across like a publisher like Forbes, for example.
Very interesting. So I didn't even think at all about AI visibility when I was writing this article. So that's great feedback, knowing that that's actually the way to do this. But I guess the key information here is, I think you were also saying that in your research, that it's educational content. Yes, it's the kind of expert content that people are writing because they're really showcasing their expertise to the world. And that expertise also can come from different sources, right? So just like I combined, and then that became a full article. I think a lot of people are probably thinking here, how far can I go with this in terms of trying to create this content with my content team versus working with subject matter experts? What would be your advice in here in terms of taking that content to the next level if you are working with subject matter experts? How could you support, maybe I guess the question is, how could you support your subject matter experts to help them share content and make that content more visible on AI without giving them too much detail to think about this is what I need to think of, this is how I need to position myself, etc.?
Well, this isn't exactly LinkedIn advice. This is just my personal advice because, we're all, I'm a aspiring thought leader and I want to get my name and my content out there. And so what I find to be the easiest, I love the LinkedIn employee advocacy program, and I love to hear like subject matter expert voices. But again, people have full-time jobs. It's like very hard to get all of that content extracted from your subject matter experts. But nowadays it's so easy. Ask them to talk into a memo on their computer, plop the memo transcription into AI, derive what you can, use the same tone of voice. You can also interview, like this interview is going to be great because you're going to have tons of little chopped up pieces of content that you can then go and put out there across other channels. And it's about taking something and turning into multiple different pieces of content across the industry. I used to, when I was at a larger agency before I went out on my own, I would have our own team trainings. I would tell everyone on the training, like, hey, we're going to turn this into content for LinkedIn. And then I would take the training recording and I would take the slides from the deck, turn it into a carousel for social media, grab some sound bites from the recording, feed the recording into like Opus Clip, chop it up, all different types of ways. So I will say though that the subject matter experts are going to be more and more important as everyone continues to lean into AI, because we're seeing so much AI slop. We're seeing so much of people regurgitating and dumbing down the actual passion and flair that makes someone a subject matter expert. And the people who lived to become a subject matter expert on their own without the help of AI, you have that knowledge forever. It's yours. And that's what's going to be very important. It's going to be human to human meetings like this where, we're talking and getting all of the information. This isn't done with AI. So I think that, people should continue to talk about what they're good at and talk about what the passion behind it. And that is, again, that's why LinkedIn is so credible and why we're so excited to see these posts and articles and people's insights showing up in LLMs and across Google search features, because it's the place where people go to talk about professional topics and professional categories. And it's the place where people go to, explain their brand and be credible. I don't think there is another social platform that is as focused as LinkedIn is on that professional side. And I hope it stays that way forever.
Brilliant. So many great points about subject matter experts and their growing importance. Oh, fantastic. My gosh, I can't believe what time it is. We're literally almost towards the end of our conversation. I just have one more question for you, Brooke, in terms of what's next. So obviously this is a very quickly developing area. I'm just curious, where is LinkedIn research going next? And hopefully that's also a bit of a guidance for marketing leaders. What should marketing leaders be preparing for over the next 12 months?
So I think that we could do a whole webinar on measurement, but measurement is my biggest priority right now at LinkedIn. So because we are working and looking at the specific data we're seeing in LLM visibility tools, we're mapping that there's a whole journey, right? And so I like to call it the conversation funnel, because it's no longer the conversion funnel, because you can go from not knowing anything about a brand or a tool, and B2B sales cycles are insanely long, right? Depending on the software or whatnot you're selling. Now it can be truncated down to like one conversation with an LLM. You're like, what is the best this? And it tells you. And then you're like, okay, what about this? And then it tells you. And then we're seeing traffic from LLMs converting higher because people are going from top of funnel all the way to adoption in one conversation. It's actually amazing. It's great for all of us B2B marketers. But I would say that we're not just trying to look at how we're showing up in LLMs, because there is a lot of controversy around how that data is pulled. And so what we are mapping back to, we're creating a content scoring system for ourselves where we're looking at, social mentions before LLM mentions. We're looking to see out there, how people are talking about the LinkedIn brand so that we can kind of create a predictive model of, we want to produce this content, or we want to work with this earned media partner to get this message out. We're going to try to score that content ahead of time and predict whether or not it would get picked up in LLMs. And to do that, we need to understand the nature of the prompts and what people are asking. And we have to figure out not only what's LinkedIn's role in those conversations, but what is the LLM's role in pushing the conversation around LinkedIn forward. And so we're focusing a lot on intention, a brand like a prompt intent. We're focusing a lot on looking at the clear gaps where we're not showing up as a brand, and we're building some very cool tools internally for the B2B LinkedIn team that are going to help us understand this landscape a lot better.
Fantastic. Wow. Lots of development. Loads of things going on at the moment and how to take it to the next level. And I guess lots of inspiration as well for our audience and how to think about that. I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for sharing all of that information with us. I'm sure this will trigger more conversations in the comments after the call. I know that some people couldn't join us. I really appreciate this, Brooke. This has been very, very, very interesting in terms of how to think in a broader way than simply AI optimization tips. I really appreciate your time. If anyone has got any questions, I think I know the answer to this question, but what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Oh, find me on LinkedIn. Of course.
Wouldn't guess.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brooke. I really appreciate your time.